Evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on when you're listening to this. This is another edition of a Creators Light podcast, and I have a great guest on here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jathan Blake. I'm an independent artist who does pop, R&B, and a little electronica, and I'm just excited to be here today to be able to talk with Eli about creative things and performing and entertainment in general. So I'm excited to be here.
Most definitely, and I just want to say, I appreciate you being on here, and I also want to thank you for your professionalism as well and things of that nature because life happens, but it's great when people are able to follow up and let you know what's going on. So that definitely means a lot as well. So I just want to say I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I appreciate everything that you've done so far.
For sure, for sure. So now, when it comes to Jathan Blake, right? So for those who aren't following him, and we'll make sure at the end you get all his information. Jathan Blake, as a performer, is somebody that when I seen him perform, when I watch him perform, his attention to detail, him making the audience feel, included in what he does is something that you rarely see nowadays. Even for people who have been doing it for 10, 20 plus years. And so one of the great things about people like him is he cares about the art. It's not about something that he mentions about when the hype fades and everything. It's like it's more than that. You know what I mean? The time that you're putting into what you do and your craft and stuff. So I want you to let the audience know, at what age did you get into the arts?
I started getting into the arts in around third grade. I remember I was doing a talent show. So I grew up pretty much playing a lot of sports, and one of my first sports was gymnastics. And I remember we had our first like annual school talent show that we were having, and I was around 8 years old, and I was like, "Ooh, I can use some of the gymnastics and do some dancing on stage for my act." And I remember this is the first time like really being a participant in any type of talent show. And I remember being so excited to be able to perform, but then I was just like, it felt almost kind of like routine to me because it felt like I've been doing this for a while, even though it was my first time. And so I remember it was at school, a school called Jericho Christian Academy in Maryland. And I remember we had our talent show on Friday, and I played a gospel song that was upbeat and did a bunch of backflips and splits and dancing and things like that. And that was the first time that I really felt, uh, oh, I could really perform. Like I could really do this because not only was it as exciting for me to be able to perform in front of people and then make them feel something, but it was also exciting for me to be able to create something out of nothing and really allow that to resonate with others. And I at first was like, okay, I'm really interested in doing something that's within the arts and entertainment. So I feel like that was the first marker that kind of led me onto this path of performing.
Okay, man, that's it. Sounds like from an early age, you understood, what it took to, put the time and effort in, and it seems like that carry on to where you're at right now. And you did mention about, Maryland. So what influence did living in Maryland have on you, like culture wise? Like, was it things that resonated with you as you were performing, or when you're writing songs? Like, is that something that you also kind of made sure to showcase to people who may not be familiar with that area?
Yeah, so I grew up in a faith-based household, so church every Sunday, uh, and pretty much it was like a good 4 or 5 days out of the week when I was young that where if I wasn't doing like uh a sport or activity, or I didn't have a track meet, or I didn't have a basketball game or anything like that, it would be church. And so like a lot of the influences that I grew up was a lot of gospel in the house, but then also to turn the page, it was also a lot of like soul music that my parents were listening to. And so it was a lot of Stevie Wonder, it was a lot of Whitney Houston, it was a lot of Michael Jackson that was played in the house, that I knew, that I remember when I was younger, that was a little bit of that old soul feeling that carries on with me as an artist. You know, I like to blend the two, kind of create something that's new and modern and fresh and kind of innovative, but then also using elements of the past and kind of merging those two together, because I feel like there's a rich history, there's a rich learning experience when you're able to learn from, the people that came before you, and then also put your own style and your own personality and your own story to what you do now and how you want to convey that to other people. And so, like, even growing up in Maryland, there was a lot of soul, a lot of gospel influences, whether that be like traveling for churches and singing a part of my praise team or choir that we used to sing at different churches, or whether it was like in school. And then I remember feeling as a young person being like, or a younger person being like, I really feel like there's more than just the gospel and soul aspect. I really feel like I want to explore the multifacetedness of music and all the different genres that have to offer. And so when I became around like maybe 11, 12, 13, probably that middle school age period, I remember not only hearing a lot of go-go because, DC is very go-go heavy and very live instrumentation heavy. And I really love, being able to see people get excited when the beat drops and things like that. But then also exploring different facets and being like, oh, I love pop music, or I love jazz, or I love about to go into sleep for the next day, but then listening to classical music and being like, oh, I love this. And just exploring and having that curiosity and learning from other genres. And so that's the age when I was like, okay, I really love being able to use these different elements and, create little songs or little jingles here and there. So I would like create a theme song for a TV show that I was trying to write, or create a hip hop song off of a hip hop beat that I found on YouTube and use that instrumental. And I feel like those were the first kind of learning strides that helped me to be able to create the sound that I want to be able to do today. Is not only being influenced by the gospel and soul, but then being influenced by the pop and by the jazz and by the classical styles. And those are what kind of like helped me right when I was around high school years to be able to really start writing more and taking that a little bit more seriously. And then to continue to write today for my own original music.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's something that it takes a lot of willpower. It takes, having faith, which, you saying, your family, is, real big into, faith, and, you was going to church a lot. So it seemed like you had a lot of that instilled into you, about, continuing to go and, utilizing that momentum to move to different things and stuff like that, and not just being stuck in a box, because there's a lot of artists who feel you have to do what everybody else is doing to make it, when your individuality is what makes you stand out even more. So it's good that you were able to create your own path in your own lane. Now I do want to ask you, because you mentioned you have tried different genres of music, so I would like for you to tell me, it doesn't, it could be your favorite, or one gospel artist that you like, and the reasons to why you're a fan of their music. Also one R&B artist, and then one pop artist, and just tell me, just kind of the reasons to why, or what influence they have had on you.
Yeah. Hmm. So I would definitely say I really grew up during the time frame of the Kirk Franklins, the Mary Marys, and the Ty Tribbetts. Anyone that was around that time period or born or raised around that time period know they were like the trifecta of the new type of modern gospel that was happening at the time. And those were the stuff that we were blasting in our cars, and we would burn those CDs out. We would play them CDs almost every time we got in the car. And so I would definitely say, for a gospel artist, I feel like that I resonated with a lot was definitely Kirk Franklin, because he paved the way for a lot of the modern gospel that we have today. But then also, I it would be it will kind of behoove me to say also that there's an artist called Jay Moss, and that artist is just vocally sound, performance wise. Like, he was the first person that I used for my talent show, his song, and I just remember being like so incredibly surprised by the way that he used his voice and his harmonies. And so Jay Moss is definitely that. I feel like that one pinnacle artist that I can pinpoint that I was inspired by when I was a kid. Um, and to be able to use the different elements of harmony and music and just the way that you organize a track. I definitely would stay for R&B. It's more so like R&B pop, more pop R&B. So I would definitely say Justin Timberlake and Usher were definitely um my influences and my inspirations when it comes to, artistry, when it comes to performance, when it comes to how you want to set up a show, when it comes to just being what a star is and what that looks like and what it could look like for me as I got older. And so those were the people that were in the 2000s that, and even now, that continue to inspire me as an artist, and the way they sing, how they use their voice, the falsetto, their range, uh, even some of their musicality as well, and the performance styles, which I feel like is always a branch. Um, for the last genre, for pop, which I would definitely say the king of pop, Michael Jackson, is definitely my favorite artist of all time. It's the way that he was able to blend so many different things together, not only do it well and execute it well and have a vision and a perspective of what he wanted it to sound like, but then also he gave music with a message. And I feel like I do the same, or I try to do the same with other people, to
People
serve
to
them
turn them.
in different facets of life, because there are so many things that I feel like we have not yet addressed a lot in the mainstream style of music that can be pushed to the forefront. And I think that would resonate with a lot of people. And to be able to use different styles to sing that or perform that, something that Michael Jackson was easily able to do, and to be able to get that message across and allow it to not be so complicated, but at least it was palatable for so many different people and so many different walks of life. You see multi generations. You see people who are like 2 years old, and then you have see people who are like 80, who are still like resonating with those tracks. Even it's timeless, so it doesn't matter what year it came out, but just people that still carry on that legacy today and allowing that music to be timeless, I think is inspiring, and that's what I want to be able to do with my music as well.
Yeah, I mean that's powerful, man. You know, to be able to understand that music is more than just the performing aspect, but the lyrics and what's put into it, because you can change so many lives with what you say on a track. You know what I mean, and the energy that you're giving when you actually perform it live. That takes it to another level. Now, those artists you mentioned, they were all great and still are great, with Usher, Justin Timberlake, of course Kurt Franklin, and all the other gospel artists you mentioned. They're great with structuring a song, you know what I mean? Now, I know you've done many songs, and one of your latest songs, Momentum, can you just break down, you know, your process as far as like structuring a song, and I know you mentioned melodies. So for other artists out there who maybe just be starting off, or just trying to get some tips to help them out, how what would you tell them as far as like structuring a song and finding what works, what I mean, depending on what you're trying to convey.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's helped me, and of course, I don't have like this super lengthy catalog, but I think what's helped me to be able to like hit the ground running with the music that I've created is being a really good listener. I think being an intentional listener to music, and especially music that you enjoy, or even music that is outside of your norm, and being able to listen to how they structure their songs. And I think for me, being such an avid listener when I was younger, and kind of listening to the full song of things over and over again. How they did the verse, how they did the chorus, how they went back to the second verse, how they did the chorus again, how they did their bridge, and how they did the last chorus. Just being a listener of music and kind of studying it, and not just like, oh, I'm just casually listening, but like listening to how they build the song, how they built the structure of the lyrics. I think the first time that I remember like starting to write when I was in high school was I used a lot of the instrumentals that were on YouTube. A lot of the times they would just have like type beats. I know everyone knows what type beats are. But being able to listen how some people create or craft their instrumentals, and then writing to that, or taking a song that's already kind of familiar or popular, and then writing your own type of style of lyrics or what you want to say on the track, with the just the instrumental alone. And then also being able to kind of break down uh songs in general, and being able to just listen to the instrumental with no vocals, no anything, with, and then listening to how they use the drums, how they use the piano, how they use the guitar. It's very kind of like instinctive a little bit, when you are able to kind of like get in that motion of studying music and how people arrange it, and you get into that routine of things, then it starts to show up in the way that you write and the way that you range. And so for me, even my latest single for Momentum, that's something that I've kind of done, is utilizing some reference tracks. I remember before I started writing the song Momentum, and before I arranged it, I knew that I wanted something that was going to be anthemic, because I feel like that's a part of who I am, and that's a part of my brand, and that's a part of my story, is to be able to use something that empowers other people to not only live out their best lives, but how can we live in purpose and live purposefully with each other and in community, and strengthening ourselves, whether that be mental health, or whether that be, just individual goals that we want to achieve. I knew that I want something that was going to, empower and uplift people. And so, with that intention I had in mind, I wanted something that was a little bit like stadium sounding. So, anytime that I'm listening to different sounds, I'm listening to, okay, what is something that I can bring forward that can sound like we're in a crowd, or sound like we can dance to this together, or sound like this is a communal space like a stadium or a sports game, or something that really drives home and tells the message of being empowered and keeping that momentum going. And so some of the instrumentals and some of the songs that I was inspired by were the things of the past. Like, I always try to reference some of the things that are now and some things in the past. And so growing up, I remember, um, even Eye of the Tiger that was in Rocky's film, or Eminem's Lose Yourself, or Kanye West's Stronger, or Remember the Name by Fort Minor, and those sort of popularized tracks that were in the past, that kind of were like anthemic, and you can see people's reactions when those songs come on. Because, when you have different life experiences, and you're outside and you're hearing live music, or you're hearing music being played, and you see people's reactions to the songs, being played when the DJ pressed the play button and you see people getting amped up and excited. That's what I wanted to come with, that intention for momentum and being like, okay, I see what they did. They told the story of, sometimes things aren't always what they seem. And how can I allow the person to navigate through the obstacles and challenges? Because we all know that there are things that work against us that are only able to help shape us. And so I think a lot of the times when we think of success, we think that, oh, this is just something that, I'm going to make it, I'm going to do this, I'm going to achieve this. But we don't also look at the other side of that. And I think that's not in the forefront of our minds. So even at the beginning of the song, I kind of talk about like when you are on the ground and you are on your knees and the moment where you feel like you want to just give up, that's the turning point of that. There's another side of it that's like right around the corner. There's a blessing. There's that even a greater success that you couldn't even imagine because of what you're dealing with, your hardships. And I remember even hearing Denzel saying that ease is a greater threat to progress than setback. And so if I'm not allowing myself to even have this comfortable relationships with setbacks and with failure, then I'm not allowing myself to progress forward. And that's something it's hard to kind of wrap around your head and be like, what? How is like setback and failure a part of this journey? But it's a part of life, and the two work hand in hand. You can't have success without failures and without mistakes and without errors. And so that's what I wanted to say within the song is that we're going to have setbacks. We're going to have things that are going to cut us down. They're going to have people in our lives that's going to try to hinder us. And there's many things and obstacles in life that's trying to push you down from being the best version and from moving forward or from being complacent or stuck. And that's something that I want to be like, you know what? This is for anybody who's going through anything that they were trying to get out of, that's trying to dream big, that's trying to get out of the box that they put themselves in or that other people have put themselves in. And let's move forward. We're not going to be stuck. We're not going to be complacent. We're going to continue to grow. Yeah, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to have to learn from them. But we're not just going to sit back and not do anything and then years later regret it. So we're going to keep moving forward. And so that's what momentum is really all about and how I kind of break that down.
No, I appreciate the way you broke that down because songs are so impactful and it brings the nostalgia and and you referencing how you would listen to a track to see how they structured it and just certain nuances that made the song really pop. And for people like like some of your favorites like Justin Timberlake, Usher, they had, like, for instance, You Don't Have to Call, that that bridge part, we can boogie, that part, and people who watch the music video, like in the elevator scene and stuff like that, it brings out such a uniqueness in the song because it's like, sometimes that's the part you're waiting for because it's like, oh yeah, I remember this, or I remember where I was when I first heard this song. So to have different songs that bring nostalgia or they bring motivation and inspiration, that's what's needed in the world, and it helps fight against the evil that we face constantly, or negative thoughts, because so many things that goes on in our lives that we can't control. So to have songs or to have people who can speak about things that other sometimes that other people can't really put into words, it's a great ability. And it's something that I'm glad people like yourself don't take for granted because it's a gift. And sometimes people may feel like, oh well, it's just like a talent, or it's just something cool you can do, when they don't really understand, like, to be able to have something downloaded in your mind that you can give back out to the people. That's a gift and that's a blessing, and you don't want to ever take that for granted. So it's just great hearing how you're disciplined with what you do. You appreciate the greats, but you understand that you also are working to become great in your own right. And a lot of people don't always understand that. They may want to have something that resonates, one or two songs, and it's like, they just kind of drift away from there, but it's like you're always putting that next level of energy into what you. So I just definitely want to salute you on that.
I definitely appreciate that. And I just want to add, like, same with you as well. I see you putting in your work and your intentionality and your hard work and drive that you have for writing your songs and songs that have meaning. I think that will carry you along a long way. And I also want to add, like, I really am truly blessed, and I believe that I'm a vessel from God to be able to, write these songs, because these are just not my own. I feel like even when we're writing songs, it's like incredibly powerful. And when you finish writing it and have that moment when you finish writing a song, it's like, wow, like this doesn't even feel like it's me.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I really started taking doing music seriously maybe like within the last, 3 to 4 years or so, and
Mhm.
sometimes I'm still, and I feel like that's the great thing about being a creator, is like you're always just finding new things about yourself that, like, it just, it heightens your day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, like I can't believe, like, I figured this out about myself, or I was able to put together this project in a certain way where it shows my advancement from where I was to where I'm at right now. And you're right, man. It's just a gift from God that is something to where it's so powerful, and that's why, like, the things people say, it can cut people down so bad, because words, they have power to them. You know what I'm saying? If you allow yourself to receive, the information that's given to you, whether it's negative or positive, and to be able to be a light in the world that's so dark, it's needed. You know what I mean? You can have a great song without it trying to tear somebody down, or you're, talking about, how much money you got, or you're the greatest ever, you the best ever, and stuff like that. It's cool. I mean, because everybody's gonna have their own niche and what works for them, but it shouldn't be a influx of more of that, what I'm saying, than it is, having something to balance that out with music, that's actually life saving, but also can get you on the dance floor. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's an element that's missing, is that I don't know. Sometimes I'll think about things differently, but what I have to say is I feel like in this social media age and era that we're in now, I feel like people have become a little too cool to be excited for things, and like at least be on the dance floor and not just stare or like look and stand still and just be in it for the looks, but really be able to get it in and have fun and do things, and not being always pretentious or careful and cautious about what other people are thinking, or being like, oh, I can't do that or whatever because this person is looking at me. And then it's just like, can we get out of that and break out of that box and really be able to be like, I don't care. Like, if I'm feeling fun, if I'm having a good time, if I want to be able to be bold and confident and like be my best self, then it shouldn't be predicated onto anyone else but me.
Yeah, I agree with that, man, and I do see that a lot, especially when you're performing at these different, venues, and the certain showcases. Man, you'll see people who they just kind of do what works, you know what I'm saying, and kind of stay, in a certain box, because it's just like, okay, I want to try something new here, but I don't know if it's gonna resonate with people, and I've been like that a lot, where it's like, I may have a song that I want to perform, and I'm like, okay, well, this type of audience, they may only want to gravitate to a certain thing, or they just may want to see me dance, and that's something I want to talk to you about as well. Where it's just kind of like, you know, it's more than just the dance, or it's more than just, what I'm saying, being your entertainment. It's just like, I want you to also be able to understand, like, it's a message. I'm not just up here, jumping around, or laying out this full performance just so that way it's just like, oh, it's just you're just only pointing out certain things. But that's one thing I realized is where, as an audience, member, you know what I'm saying, you're just going, you're going to find what resonates with you. So if it's a part of a song that resonates with you, or if it's just certain key elements that you like about a person, that's just what it's going to be. And I had to realize, like, I just got to keep pushing and keep going and not worried about, what people gravitate or what they don't, because some people, they're very surface level. You know what I'm saying? When you start maybe discussing certain things that either brings up accountability or something to where they're just not in that mindset for, sometimes they just, they just tune that out. But for those who really appreciate it, they're gonna still keep up with you and follow your movement. And that's what I appreciate the most, because I'm not gonna do something for just one person or one opinion and stuff like that when there's so many other people that could utilize what I'm doing and stuff. So that's one thing I look at. Now, how do you deal with constructive criticism? Like, have you ever had somebody maybe tell you something offline or give you feedback on a performance or a song? Like, how do you deal with constructive criticism?
Good question. Um, there have been times in the past where people necessarily maybe don't like the song, or they didn't like how I was singing the song. I remember one time, so I did school plays and musicals when I was in middle and high school. And I remember this one teacher, she was all like, we were singing the song and we're gonna get ready to sing. I It was a high school play my senior year. It was called Beauty and the Beast. Everyone knows, and I was actually the Beast. And I remember singing "If I Can't Love Her," which is like this big moment for the Beast, where he's really, in tune and in tune with his feelings and his emotions about Belle and who he is and who he's become and his transformation. I remember singing the song in rehearsal. And the teacher was all like, "Stop doing this like R&B gospel-esque style with it." Um, and sort of kind of like not sing in that style or whatever. And that was because back in that time, I still had that, gospel flair, because that was what I grew up in and grew up with and grew up singing. And I remember saying those words and I was like, what? I was so confused. And it was because it had more of that gospel soul element, like I was saying earlier, that what I grew up in. And I remember being like a little caught off guard and being like, okay, how can we make this a little different? How can we kind of like expand our vocal ability? I kind of took it as a way, not sort of, a negative thing with how my voice is in general, but like, how can we kind of expand the way that we sing songs? How can we kind of break out the norm of what I've been used to and adapt to, different styles and how it can sound and how it can sound in different songs? Because, not every song you sing the same way. And I took it upon myself to do some research and kind of listen to different varieties of how that song was sung. And even kind of like just dove into YouTube of how you kind of sing in a more classical Broadway style of singing than just singing it in the way that I was singing before. And I took it being like, okay, I can do a lot more than what I'm capable of. And I think that's what I've learned from that experience, is to know that this is not something against you. This is not something against your voice. It's just like, how do I flip the coin and being like, how can I learn from this experience and being like, this is not something that's going to limit me, but this is something that's going to push me forward. And I just think that's how I've kind of been sort of taught and grown in this environment, to kind of like look at different perspectives with the nuance and not being so angry or upset the first time somebody has something negative to say, or maybe not even negative, but something constructive to say against what I'm doing or how I'm saying or how I'm speaking or how I'm singing, but then kind of being like, let me take a step back. Let me see, is this beneficial or is this something that's not? If it's beneficial, if it's going to allow me to expand, explore, and allow myself to be able to grow in this, then I'm going to take that constructive criticism and I'm going to continue to move forward. And it's funny because probably a few months later, I was auditioning for a college and I sang the same song in the style where I've expanded and did like the more Broadway style of the song. And the person who was there from the school representing them that was handing out scholarships was saying, okay, now sing it more R&B and B and gospel. And I was like, this is crazy because like in one instance, there or one incident, I'm being told that I need to stop singing in this style, and then in the other one, they want me to go back. But it's also it's just a learning how to adapt. It's kind of learning how to be like, okay, they want me to do this. All right, let's do it this way. Or if it may fit you best to do it one way, because maybe some people they don't know how to do it a different way, and you may know and be intuitive enough to know, no, this is the style in which I'm singing and which it's going to be, and I don't see or hear anything else, taking everything else into consideration, being like, no, this works for me. This sound works for me. This melody works for me. That how I'm singing it, this is what's gonna work because everything else is not working. So I think it's definitely a working relationship with constructive criticism and seeing the opportunity for what it is and allowing myself to not be so like distant from constructive criticism, but actually seeking like, how could I get better? How can I strengthen my songwriting skills? How can I learn from it? And even like hearing from like playlists and things like that that I'll submit my songs to, and they'll have some constructive criticisms about what they think the songs are like even now, and being like, okay, how can I work on getting better at my lyrics? Or it may not even fit for that audience or that person that I'm like trying to reach in that different playlist that I'm trying to submit to. How can I really allow myself to be in an environment and a space and a headset? And I think that's the first thing, is to make sure that my mind is clear with full intention and that I'm not always being like wanting to be like, okay, no, like, no, this is not going to be helpful. No, but actually like listening, being open enough to hear what people have to say about my performance or songs or music. And then being like, okay, does this work for me? Then I'll go to God and I'll pray on it. And then I'll also like look to people who are wise and being like, what can I do that can have the best outcome? And if that works, then that works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I think it's definitely a working relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand that firsthand myself. I, remember it was two events that I went to, and one of them I had performed "Definition of Love." That's like the first song I did, and then after that I performed like a alternative version of like "Locked In." And I remember, people saying, "Man, I like that second song, that second song, that second song." I'm like, "That's cool," but I didn't give up on the first song. I was like, if people aren't really resonating with it, or maybe the way I performed it maybe wasn't up to par. Let me go back to the drawing board and see, and kind of what you mentioned, to see how I can make that better. And I ended up, making some adjustments and finding a new way to incorporate the energy and like the message that I wanted in that song, and it ended up becoming, what I'm saying, one of my most sought out songs that people listen to. And so I'm like, I'm definitely proud of that. And another situation was I was performing a song. It was kind of the same similar situation where the person was telling me, "Oh, I like this song," and they were just kind of real, back on what they liked and stuff like that. And I was like, that's cool. And I think the thing about constructive criticism is when it's coming from a place of somebody being genuine versus they're trying to undermine you or slight you. I think that's what makes the difference, because
Exactly.
you know everybody has a different ear for music. Some people, they only like music if it's destructive. Let's be honest. Some people only like music
Yeah,
if they feel it's classical. I don't do all that soulfulness. But the thing about it is that soulfulness is what's missing in music, and that's why music doesn't hit the same like people want it to. So I think that's another thing too, where it's good you was able to adapt, but you didn't like disassociate yourself from what made you who you are. You got different layers and elements of what makes you even better as an artist, but at the same time you just strip that away to make a certain group of people feel comfortable or like your music, when there's so many other people who like, man, I'm glad, like it could be this, like you said, the same song, and people enjoy it because it's just like, this is a different audience, or this is somebody that needed to hear it the way that you initially wrote it and stuff like that, or maybe
yeah,
your beat selections and stuff. So I think that's important to have discernment, when you're networking with
exactly.
people. What I'm saying, networking with people, submitting your music out to people, like you really gotta go and make sure, okay, is this this venue, or this group of people, organization, like I'm sending my material to, are they gonna really take into account like who I am as an artist, and is this gonna fit what they're looking for, or I'm more so too different for them that they're not gonna really be able to respect it? Because sometimes if a person doesn't like something, just because it's not their particular genre, they're just gonna say, oh no, I'm cool on that, you know what I mean? So
Exactly.
um they're not even gonna give it a
Or
chance.
or the whole like the trash comment. Like I still, and the people who always just like throw the word trash are generally the people that really don't have much to say after that. Like you can ask them, okay, what makes this trash? And they can't elaborate. I mean, so it just goes back to what you said, people who are genuine, people who actually have an ear for music, people who actually may not be your audience. Those are the people that you want to consider. Like you want to people consider the authenticity and the genuineness of people who are giving you constructive criticism versus the ones that are just like trash, nah, this is mid, this is. It's like, well, you're not really saying anything.
Yeah, and yeah, and that's sometimes so interesting, when people are so quick to dismiss things because they don't like it, and then depending on who they are in society, they can influence so many people. Because I want you to actually tell people, one of your quotes when it comes to hype.
Yes. So this is actually a quote that I remember putting on the cap, my graduation cap when I graduated from Stevenson University. And I remember I said, hype fades, but legacy remains.